show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Hello, world. It's episode 66, Aspasia.
It is.
I'm glad it's not episode 666. You're on the Untold Radio Network. My name's Joe
I think
Katz.
we'll ever get there. And I'm Aspasia.
Yeah, and this is Hauntology. We're going to look into Hauntology, what's actually happening to our world in terms of popular culture and what it may be telling us about ourselves. I want to thank every single person that tunes in, listens to this project, loves what we're doing and hits the thumbs up. We're having some weird moments there with the numbers, aren't we, on our provider there? Just keep an idea on our numbers, people. They go up and down and they should not be doing that.
Not like that anyway.
So episode 66 of Down South Anomalies, Hauntology, Eldritch in the Backrooms. So I guess what it looks like there, Aspasia, we've descended into some linguistic, semantic quagmire.
Yes, we have.
And you know what? Today's episode's not about a war of words, but we have seen recently in the arena of ufology that there has been a change in semantics.
There has.
We've gone from the incredible UFO, unidentified flying object, and thanks to Captain Ruppelt there for that, from Blue Book way back in the mid-50s to UAP. And in many ways, it seems to me as if they're weaponizing language around the anomalous object.
Language has always been weaponized.
Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, check out his work and check out his report on flying saucers. That's an astounding book. Make sure you get the first printing, not the redacted printing. All right. But that's another story, Aspasia. Hauntology, of course, as you know, is a portmanteau.
It is.
Of haunting and ontology. And what we're actually doing here today, as I said before, is not to do with the language of love.
No.
Linguistics at all. It's got to do with philosophy. And I've always said at the heart of the anomalous problem, I mean, there's sociological, there's medical, there's trace elements. You can bring in industrial chemists. But isn't there a major psychological, philosophical issue here?
Yes, there is.
And it's to do with the way we think.
We perceive things.
How our thinking is actually, manufactured and shaped.
Yep.
And I think that's the way we're looking at it. Hauntology is a neologism. You've got me pushed out here today.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So, there you go.
So, and what is a neologism? And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that is certain words that have been modified, adjusted, only recently, and have then become extremely popular. It was first introduced by French philosopher Jacques Derrida in his 1993 book, The Spectres of Marx, which was around that notion of we're so many years away from Karl Marx's philosophy, but it still haunts us today.
It does. In 1993, that wouldn't have been the beginning of that was getting close to the start of the internet too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, hauntology refers to the persistence of elements from our cultural or social past, the way that things persist. Since then, it's bled into many disciplines of the arts. Do you know that? It's bled into hauntology has become part of the visual arts.
Yes.
It's become a big part of the electronic music arts. It's become part of politics, fiction, literary, and musical criticism.
Right.
So it has really gathered speed. So what we're going to do in this episode is accumulate a few of those examples out of popular culture that speak to us about hauntology
Mhm.
and also speak to us about our 21st century state of mind and how dramatic sort of the way that especially the younger generations now perceiving the world they live in. And they seem to be flipping back. I mean, what's that show you watch on Netflix that's obsessed with Montauk?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yes.
Now, it's set in the 80s, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So, again, it's that sort of, it takes that notion that steampunk took.
Mhm.
It takes a modern idea
Yeah.
and transcends it
Takes
back into the past
to a
of that generation.
Mhm.
So when you think about all of us, and you speak about this as a mother, the children are very much formed by a very early age.
Yes, they are.
And it's those memories in that early age and that generation
That's right. Yeah.
that sort of delineate a lot of their behavior and thinking.
And what
part of
they're
their
going to be
emotional-
into, and what it's the buttons, that get pushed. So, for my son, it's the 80s because they were his formative years.
Yeah.
He was born in 77, so the 80s when he was, watching television and becoming aware of the world and what got in there and stayed in there. So it's all it's 80s music, 80s TV shows, 80s for him.
So for us, it's the 60s and 70s.
It's the 60s,
But for this modern generation, it really is the 90s.
Well, it's the 90s or the early 2000s, the noughties,
So what we're going to do is consider the fact
Mm.
that all of us are actually captured mentally by the ghosts of our past.
Yes.
And what a better place to start, Aspasia, then let's talk about yesterday, which was Australia Day.
It was, yeah.
But still a contested day in terms of our Indigenous population.
Yeah.
And as we always say at the beginning of Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies, because we're broadcasting in Sydney, Australia, we are actually broadcasting on stolen land. It's part of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And we want to show our acknowledgement and respect to elders past, present, and emerging. And I tell you what, if anyone's haunted by the past, it must be our Indigenous population that lived in harmony.
Yes.
And looks like today
for tens of thousands
may
of years.
have been quite possibly the cradle of civilization.
Well,
of course, they keep putting it back.
Yeah, they
60,
do.
70, 80,000 years.
Yeah.
And the fossil and skeleton record just keeps growing. And they lived in harmony.
And the astrological archaeology is very, very old as well.
Yeah, astroarchaeology.
Yeah.
So we're going to consider that whole notion. We're also going to consider, let's just go to that next image.
Yes.
We're going to dedicate the show to the late Luis Vasquez that passed away recently from Soft Moon.
Yes.
And the reason why Luis is here, and I hear that in your voice going, oh my God, he can't stay away from
No,
this.
no, I don't.
It's the fact that Luis had a very difficult childhood, and his music spoke of that. And his music also was part of what I'd say that academics like Mark Fisher, the late Mark Fisher, would have said are all part of that lost futures.
Yes.
And part of hauntology.
Yeah.
Because he actually took us back to that period in the 80s of electronic music that has now become dark wave.
Yes.
So if you don't know the music of the band The Soft Moon, please go and search it out. It is rather driving, it is rather painful, but it is totally brilliant.
It's haunting, isn't it?
It is haunting.
Yeah.
So our Indigenous population here in Australia, Luis Vasquez, and then I think our third character has got to be our grandson, who enlightened us.
Yes, he did.
How old is he?
He's 8. He's going to be 9 at the end of March.
Okay, let's have a little look at Dean. Now,
I so love this photo of you too.
We were exploring the notion of a meme. It started off as a bit of what is it, that crazy spaghetti out there on a Reddit post, which was basically saying that, it was a fictional trope about people being able to clip out of reality just by a mistake, walking backwards or walking into the wrong space. All of a sudden you find yourself in what looks like multiple, endless levels and rooms of empty
Of
office
nothing,
space,
nothing.
of absolutely nothing.
No furniture.
That feels like it has the Eldritch
Yeah.
in the back of it. And
Yeah.
what is the Eldritch, Aspasia?
Well, tell me tell the people what the Eldritch
You know what the
is.
Eldritch
I know
is.
what
We've
it
discussed
is.
it for
We have.
years. It's sort of like the elephant in the room in
Mm.
terms of anomalies.
Mhm.
It's a pervading feeling that there is something inexplicable around you
Mm.
that's rather eerie and spooky.
Spooky, yeah.
And that Backrooms morphology, even though that is really recent as well.
Absolutely.
And I'd say Ken Pixel is the most well known for it
Mhm.
because at 16 years of age, he started to
He's
construct these
created the
incredible
Backrooms.
films.
Yeah.
He's not just one, there are many Backrooms
Yeah.
people because it became
So
a
why-
fan base.
So the grandson is in this because we were talking about
The
the
Backroom
Backrooms,
philosophy.
and they're here for the school holidays. And he pipes up and says to us, "Oh, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about the Backrooms?" And we went, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." And he just got a Chromebook for Christmas for school. And he just took us there
Totally.
to all these back rooms, and we're like, what the hell
And
are
you
you
know
doing
what?
here? What are you doing here?
He's highly creative.
Why aren't you outside playing?
He's highly creative with Minecraft. And
He is.
Minecraft,
Is a
like the
yes.
Backrooms,
Yeah.
they all play on this notion of liminal space.
Yes.
Now, liminal space is transitional areas.
Mhm.
I think a good example of a liminal space is a service station, especially late at night, and
Yeah.
you're the only car in there.
That's right.
You're there to do something, but you're on the way to go
yeah, you're
somewhere
just
else.
going through it.
But it
yeah.
always feels slightly deserted.
Yeah,
That's the eerie notion that
Mhm.
invokes that feeling of
The
the
Eldritch.
Eldritch.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of the areas we're going to cover tonight. But before we do that, we're actually stepping now into update time.
We are.
And we had the incredible Roger Stakovich with us from MUFON, the National Director for Australia and New Zealand, discussing Havana syndrome.
Yep.
And I need to actually get these photos to him so MUFON can analyze them. Let's go back and start with the shots that Matthew Black actually sent us of his account.
These ones here?
Yeah, which is to do with Bankstown
That's right.
Airport.
Yeah, the ones with a hole in the middle.
Yeah.
That picture is very reminiscent of a photo or a drawing on one of those old magazines
from the
with
50s.
From the 50s with the hole in the bottom of it.
Yeah, very ubiquitous at that time.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm putting these up again is there's sort of this notion of like, are they utilizing cloud cover to mask things?
Who knows?
And look, we're right in the midst of the tour of Franklin Mint.
Yes,
and
we
the
are.
incredible tour promoted from Black Hole and Intense.
Mhm.
Actually stated that his sister had captured 4 images recently in Raymond Terrace on the way to Tamworth. So let's have a look at these from her car. Now, what we're looking at here quite possibly is a lenticular cloud.
Yeah, it's an amazing one, isn't it?
It's incredible. Now, they're usually stationary clouds that form in a troposphere, typically in parallel alignment to wind direction and lower stratosphere. So what we're looking at there is lower stratosphere, and that arc up there could be a troposphere where 2 wind currents actually collide together to form one lenticular cloud.
Yeah.
The odd thing is it is just one lenticular cloud and it's supposed to be stationary. Let's keep going. There's a sequence in these photographs. And thank you very much to Jeff's sister. We won't name her yet till we've done some analysis and she's willing to go out there into the world of the interweb.
Now, I remember Jeff saying too that the clouds were all going one way and this particular cloud
might have been going the other way. Now, I need that confirmed.
Yeah, we need to clarify
But let's have a look at this. Go to the next shot.
Yeah.
And the next shot shows that cloud. Is that cloud moving or is it the car?
I think it's the car.
Yeah.
Well, the car is moving.
Quite possibly right there.
Yeah.
It looks like they've got out.
Well, they were driving.
Yeah, and it looks like they've got out and photographed this because... I mean, the husband wasn't prepared to think it was anything more than a lenticular cloud.
And this is
the sisters certainly thought there was something else going on here. They got out of the car
and photographed. Yeah. Anyway.
So one very odd, interesting lenticular cloud. and still the skepticism rolls.
Yeah. Anyway,
Let's just quickly talk about why should that skepticism roll all the time, even with the incredible revelations that are occurring in the US at the moment. There are great examples in our three-dimensional world
absolutely
of things that defy the laws of physics. They actually collapse the laws of physics.
Yes, they do.
And one of them was imaged in the mid-21st century, I think around 2011, 2012.
Yep.
By the Event Horizon Telescope, which I believe is a massive array of telescopes. And this was the first time it's ever been imaged. Humanity has laid eyes on it, and it's a black hole.
It is. Shall I go there?
Yes, please. Don't ask me. Just go
Let's
there.
Do it.
So there you're looking actually the Event Horizon. And, you know, a lot of people think that black holes, because they're so dense and they're actually collapsing so much matter onto themselves, and they're still not really sure what it's like inside there.
Well, how can they be when they've never gone there? You know what I mean? This is a theory.
They believe that galaxies and solar systems can actually all collapse into these things.
Okay.
But they don't suck in matter. You have to get very close. You actually have to step on the Event Horizon. You need to be about 10 kilometers before it sort of just slips you in. It's more like a Venus flytrap than it is a vacuum cleaner.
Is it really? Right.
Okay, go next.
You get stuck?
One of the big things about black holes is the magnetic energy.
Okay.
And as you can see there, you can see that spiraling of that magnetic energy. What would it take? What size black hole would it take to destroy Earth?
I don't know. Not very big.
2 centimeters.
2 centimeters.
A 2 centimeter black hole. If we came close enough to it,
that'd be the end of us.
It's literally fell into it.
Wow.
That would be the absolute end of us.
Okay.
So I think there's just one
very tenuous,
classic example. Yeah. And do you know what the other thing is? That these black holes are ubiquitous. There is literally hundreds of thousands of millions of them out there. All different sizes, and some are very close to this planet and getting closer all the time.
All right.
That image there.
Which one's the closest? Do they know?
Listen, that image there is quite close.
All right,
they do know which one's the closest.
Obviously, if they were able to.
I can't give you the name of it. That's why I don't like those questions. Yeah, that's why I whacked you. But anyway.
Yep.
I was onto a very valid point
there,
and I've lost my way because of your kookiness.
The close, how close they are, they're close.
Anyway, look, we'll move on from the black hole, but it is just a classic example of when the laws of this physics. World, of everything,
of the physics that we know,
head. The notion of gravity.
No, the physics of what we know of physics at this moment, because. You know, tomorrow somebody might discover something that changes all of that. So we need to always be open to changing and reassessing what we know. Correct?
All right. Okay. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
All right. So I reckon you go and check out that Event Horizon images of the black hole. And I think there is a black hole, very small amount of, maybe, a minimal amount of light years away from us.
Right.
And the more they look out there, the more they detected these things. It's a bit like dark matter. It's quite amazing that space actually has like the complete opposite to the way we perceive the material world.
Right.
And that primarily is the black hole. All right. Hauntology.
Yeah. Let's go there.
The future. How are people seeing the future in this world we grow up in? And we've always had that sort of drawn to the film that is a bit despotic, that paints a picture of like a post-Armageddon world.
Which one's that?
Well, lots of things. ZPG
was
ZPG, one of those films for you. There are tons of the films.
Yeah, there are.
Grass.
Yeah.
So many movies. I mean, Logan's Run was one of those films.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's happening recently is that
but our hauntology for you and I to be the Jetsons, correct?
Yeah, I mean it never came true.
Well, it's still it was we were told when we were growing up, like in the 70s, that the Jetsons was the way of the future, and that by the year 2000 we'd be living in skyscrapers in the sky, and we'd be zipping around in flying saucers to get from one place to another. We'd have robots in the house, doing, like Rosie the robot, doing all our being our maids and stuff. And it'd be George Jetson would go to work for a few hours, and then the rest of the time he'd be free to do whatever, because we would have plenty of time to just indulge our hobbies and our passions.
That bit of bait is still being held as a lure.
Absolutely,
for us.
absolutely.
And recently we showed that with Elon Musk.
Yep.
Building his robots and the Neuralink.
Yep.
But it's still held as a bait. It's very, very far away.
It is.
And
it's not here. It's so not here. I mean, only just recently now have I noticed houses going up the mid-century modern, which was mid-century modern, which was we were seeing images of those in the 50s and the 60s are only just now all over the place. There's the suburbs from Annandale all the way to Cogra Bay. When I'm traveling to my son's on Sunday nights, I see these houses popping up everywhere, but this is like 60 years later.
Yeah, how would Harry Cyber feel?
Well,
it took a while to catch on.
It did take a while to catch on, but now they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous. But anyway,
but I think something's bleeding into culture that wasn't there in the speculative 50s and 60s, and has become part of the cynicism of the way we view the world. And we're all beginning to realize that authority, no matter what, there's always corruption. There's despotism, and it feels like the working class masses are disappearing. Our notion of class is disappearing. Yeah, we're being attacked by the groups we identify with because some are more comfortable off than others.
There's more infighting now, isn't there?
So let's go to the classic image of an artist and an explosive picture book that has now taken the fan world
by storm.
Now, what we're looking at there, hold on, don't move
I'm not moving it.
We're looking at a lone person late at night in a liminal space. This is Hauntology.
Yes.
And this is The Electric State by the extraordinary artist Simon Stalenhag. It is a beautiful picture book, and Simon has certainly created other picture books of this depth, but I don't think any have really hit the zeitgeist as strongly as this one is becoming. Yeah. And this is really beginning to resonate. Again, like all good pieces of hauntology, as Mr. Fisher has told us, this is set in the 90s.
Right.
And it's like the Backrooms.
So the future is in the past now.
The future is in the past. And that has become, because I think we're actually looking at generations that have grown up with the threat of war, with what had happened in the last 3 years. They're starting to lose their sense of hope.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're now reaching into popular culture to reinforce that idea. So The Electric State. Let's just move through those images slowly whilst I talk.
Yep, go for it.
The Electric State is this story primarily about a young girl and a robot making their way across California through the Mojave Desert in a post-apocalyptic world where primarily machines now are trying to get every single human into their virtual reality, their neurocasting. Right. As you can see there, how beautiful is this image? And this is pages out of the book. So I suggest if you love this imagery, go and purchase this book. You can see they're like targets that have been decimated by rounds and rounds of ammunition. Now, you and I grew up in a world where we saw films by the extraordinary Canadian director Cronenberg, and Videodrome and Exosense really touched on us, the fabric of reality, what is happening. But let's have a look at the next image from Electric State, the picture book. Yeah. I mean, how astounding is that? And again, as you can see, Aspasia, it's this notion of liminal space. This is what John Carpenter created with
Right.
Halloween.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're in the suburbs, but where is everyone? No one is there.
You're just walking down the street, it's empty.
It's like they're dead.
Yeah.
They're
And that's
dead.
what makes it creepy.
So what's so astounding about Simon's art too is there's a sense of incredible photorealism juxtaposed with this futuristic technology gone bad.
Yeah. Yes.
Collapse.
Very bad.
So let's have a look at the cities in the electric
It's sort
state.
of like a industrialish, rusted industrialism.
As you can see there's an advertisement for, is that Michael Jackson's history tour in 1997?
Yes, I think so.
Isn't that astounding? All right, let's go down to the book, and I suggest that people go and search for this incredible book and his artwork. If you don't already know it, you may be already aware of it. But this artwork and this whole notion has hit a huge trope.
It has.
It's that thing about the way that the world, especially in capitalism, was sold to us as this pristine thing that was going to grow into a marvelous technical age. I think one of the people in 20th century culture that really hit on that head was the one and only Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
Now, Norman Rockwell gave you pure Americana in his illustrations, and literally dozens to hundreds of magazines, newspapers at the time carried those illustrations. And I'm calling them illustrations because he was assaulted by the art world at the time as not being a painter. Now, there's one of Norman's landscape paintings.
Yeah.
And this sense of photorealism. Now, let's go to an image by Simon from the Electric State. And you see this sort of vague similarity in that sense of photorealism. I would love to be able to actually
interesting.
just fade those into each other.
Yeah.
But we can't do that with StreamYard. Keep going with that.
Yep.
Aspasia,
this is a Rockwell. Yeah. This is a Norman
There's
Rockwell.
The Rockwell. And there's a page from Electric State. Now, the other thing is the tropes in Electric State actually hark back to like 30s animation, cartoons.
Yeah.
It's all that popularism that Norman Rockwell was known for.
They're very, they remind me of Mark Ryden, the artist.
Yeah.
90s,
Now, hold on a moment before you hit this next one.
Okay.
There were moments when Rockwell, enduring this criticism of being this person that created concepts and art that really didn't mirror reality too well, but sold the sizzle primarily.
Well, everything's so.
And I think he started to do what has been done here by Simon, which is like Diane Arbus in a way. I mean, there's a story and a narrative to this entire book, The Electric State, about these two, the young girl and the robot. And these were stories highlighting domestic life by Norman Rockwell. Let's look what's happening here. There's some sort of similar crossover.
Well, that's a bit...
I mean, what has happened to this poor nurse or housewife or what is she, an after-school teacher?
Know.
But that really paints a bit of a disturbing image then back decades ago with Norman Rockwell. So maybe there was...
What does it say there? Something on Christmas Eve 1917.
Well, there you go. That poor
it's
schoolgirl.
I don't know if it's a schoolgirl, but I think
let's not get caught on that.
Yeah, let's
all right.
Okay. Next one.
Okay, yeah. So that's interesting that Rockwell was already there in a sense. So I'm just keep going through those images. Don't stop. So this is the whole notion of like the landscape. Keep going.
The girl and the robot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a Rockwell. This is a Rockwell now.
Yeah. And here's a bit more of Simon's Electric State.
Yeah.
Now, it really harks to me. And as you can see here, the world that we know it, the world that's familiar to us, now has juxtaposed non-familiar technology that has actually, littered the landscape.
The landscape, yeah.
Now, it invokes in me the notion of futurists like Sid Mead.
Right, yep. There he is.
And there's Sid in his studio, the late, great Sid Mead. It was great that we actually got to meet Sid.
It was amazing.
And sort of mediate one of his discussions before he passed away. Now, Sid Mead, of course, is the brilliant mind behind a lot of the Hot Wheels imagery.
Yeah.
But he was a futurist. He started off doing, what catalogue was that?
The
US Steel catalogue.
The US Steel catalogue, yeah.
Sid it's not so much liminal spaces, and everyone seemed to be having a party in the future. Let's have a look at a little bit of Sid Mead's art. And if you've never come across Sid
Mead also did the design for
Blade Runner, which is
so
quite ironic when
absolutely.
you think about that artwork, because it's much more closer to the Electric State.
Exactly.
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That, you know, things are collapsing, society's over advertised, there is too much technology,
too many people,
and we're all living in the world of representation.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at a few more. I mean, look at this.
This is from the Steel catalogue.
And how incredible is that? There's a party going on. What is that cryptozoological creature?
That creature's out
at the front of the car.
It's about the car. This was for the steel industry. They got him to design, to draw pictures and create new things to use steel to make, and it was about this car, and it's, and then it's.
Where did he live? Was he on Cocoa Beach? He's your classic artist that had the beachfront house.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So this is more of his.
And this, in a way, is tiny little reminiscent of that notion of liminal spaces, although you can see the party still going on.
Yeah, there are some people in them.
There was always a party.
Yeah.
So let's maybe take that down and move down to moving images.
Yes.
And so what we'll do is we'll have a little peek at this notion of, let's have a little look at the Electric State. No.
Well, you should have put it in order.
No, I had it in order. We've slipped up.
You've slipped.
As you can see, that was actually the still imagery of Simon's, but it was animated. But you know what's happened?
What's happened?
I mean, what a brilliant way to actually get option for a film is to bring out a photorealism art book that is literally a graphic novel. You already have all your work constructed.
Well, your storyboards are there, aren't they?
They're done.
Yeah.
They're done.
Absolutely.
So I believe within seconds of this book even being thought about, this was optioned, and we're going to see a film. Well, let's
Netflix is investing heavily in a new sci-fi movie called The Electric State, from the makers of Avengers Endgame, with an estimated budget of over $200 million. The film features stars like Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown, and Netflix hopes it will become a franchise with spin-offs in TV shows, merchandise, and video games. The investment is part of Netflix's strategy to balance high-budget blockbusters with more affordable films, while building franchises to compete in the streaming market.
Interesting, eh?
Very interesting.
And that's our girl from Stranger Things,
it is,
isn't it?
It is.
Well, let's now have a look at the trailer. They haven't announced a release date just yet, and I'm seeing all sorts of different. You know, the trouble with all this stuff, the Backrooms, the notion of lost worlds, liminal spaces, the Electric State. fans are over it so badly.
I
But you're
know.
not sure whether you're actually looking at the real work of Simon or you're
Or
looking at
someone
some
else's.
fan cut-up.
Yeah.
You know,
which is-
it's become obsessive. It is a feeding frenzy.
This is why the
based
children
on
should be
these-
outside playing and not sitting on their computers.
And it's based on despotic,
I know.
non-futures.
Yeah.
All right, lost future.
You know that feeling when you haven't been somewhere for so long and it looks nothing like you remember? What if there was something you could do to make it feel like home again? If you could just go back in time, even for a split second, would it feel the same?
And you know what that does to me with that music?
What's
That
that?
evokes real emotion for a lost world.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And if we could just go back in time, Aspasia,
Mm.
and you know what? We're all going
Can we
back
go
in
back?
time.
Well, we are going
We're
back.
going
They're
back and
taking
we're
us back in time.
repurposing time in many,
Yeah.
many ways.
Yeah.
Look, I just, in the middle of this, we should take a pause and look at a film from 1970
Yeah.
that actually speaks to today. So let's do a bit of reverse hauntology
Yeah.
and consider this incredible film, Colossus, the
Forbin
Forbin Project. Let's
Yeah.
go to the next little image from that, and then we'll go to a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
This starred one of your favorite actors.
Oh, he
had
wasn't
a
my
soap opera world, isn't it? Eric Braeden.
Yeah. He was. He played. I don't know if he's still playing because I haven't. He played Victor in The Young and the Restless.
Okay,
I never remember
for
his surname now.
decades.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway, let's get to Colossus because Elon Musk should take a good look at this film. And this is a bit of hauntology from the past.
yeah, it is.
But here's the other interesting thing. Now, I'm not sure how real this is. We actually did some research. This film has supposedly been removed
yeah,
from all streaming sites.
supposedly.
Now, that is to the great words up on YouTube as Horror Mike.
right.
Go and check out Horror Mike's site. He's done a whole conspiracy trope on
On that.
why they might have removed this film.
Yeah, but
Look,
it's
we
not.
found
But
it's
we
still
did.
on
It-
iTunes.
You can get
It's
it on
streaming
iTunes. You can.
But it has
yeah.
mysteriously been removed from
From
a
other.
lot of other platforms.
yeah.
Get it on DVD. But let's have a look at what the commotion is about. You're on Untold Radio. This is down at South Anomalies.
This is the dawning of the Age of Colossus.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Charles Forbin. In a few moments, Colossus will address us directly.
This is the voice of world control. I bring you peace. It may be the peace of plenty and content, or the peace of unburied death. The choice is yours. Obey me and live, or disobey and die.
The frightening story of the day man built himself out of existence. Colossus, the Forbin Project.
It's making you a prisoner.
shock, horror, suspense, created with all the technological brilliance of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Colossus is the ultimate in sophisticated computers.
I'm going to try to convince the computer that you're my mistress, and that therefore I have to be given the opportunity to see you regularly in private. That way we can pass information back and forth. Four times a week.
Good night.
This is insane. When do you think you'll be able to attempt the overload?
Colossus sees all, senses all, knows all, controls all armaments and all defenses. When this emotionless creation becomes the master of man, the result is catastrophic.
The Supreme Council of the USSR has ordered, as of 2300 hours Moscow time tomorrow, the activation of an electronic brain exactly like ours, which they call Garden.
They built Colossus, supercomputer with a mind of its own. Then they had to fight it for the world.
The missile has just been launched. It is heading towards the Cyan-Sibirsk oil complex.
Guardian has retaliated.
Retaliated?
It may be too late, sir.
Oh, my God.
There you go. And
Wow.
that says it all about that. We're on the event horizon
We are
now.
for that,
Now, we're not
yeah.
going to get sucked into it, but we might actually go there ourselves
Yeah,
in many ways. And that is letting AI take over our lives.
that's right.
In Colossus,
So we had a fear of that in the 70s. Why
Yeah.
haven't we changed now?
and this film is resonating, and maybe they're removing it because,
knows?
it
knows?
is actually making people
Yeah.
question the whole notion. So the premise there, which the trailer told us, was that Colossus finds out that the Russians have a similar computer. They start communicating with each other.
And they take
They
over.
form a bond
Yeah.
and dismiss
Which is
humanity.
the biggest nightmare for the Americans and the Russians, that they should join together. You know what I mean? Anyway,
Now, the late great cultural theorist, philosopher, writer, English teacher, music critic, Mark Fisher, is who we need to really consider. He was known as K-Punk under a blog he did. He was very obsessed with jungle music,
Yeah.
and wrote incredible dissertations. Show us that lovely photo of Mark.
Yeah.
And let's just quickly go through his book covers. This
Yeah.
one caused an absolute calamity because it readdressed the notion of wokeism was coming from an abundant and wealthy sort of middle to lower middle class of leftists that actually weren't putting their money where their mouth is. And that's a whole other story, but a very worthwhile book. And check out the book that we're obsessed with is this next one.
Yeah.
Ghosts of My Life. Now, Mark suffered from depression, which was quite debilitating. And I think that's why Mark is no longer with us. Let's have a look at that beautiful picture of Mark here at the end. And let's actually listen to Mark and his philosophy about, go down to the moving images, please.
Yeah.
Let's listen to Mark and his philosophy about the ghosts of our life. There it is, just there. Thank you very much. Let's do that now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to talk today then about some of the main ideas in my new book, Ghosts of My Life, which really in some ways runs parallel to, or is the other side of, the kind of ideas that I deal with in capitalist realism, really. If capitalist realism was about the complete takeover of capital, of not only of culture and economy, but also of the psyche, then Ghost of My Life deals with what was thwarted by that. What is the bad news that you already know? Well, that it's that the future has disappeared. That in some ways that we're marooned, we're trapped in the 20th century still. That what is it to be in the 21st century? It's to have 20th century culture on higher definition screens, or 20th century culture distributed by high-speed internet. Actually, the phrase that captured this for me, and which I use at the start of Ghost of My Life from Franco Berardi, is the slow cancellation of the future. The slow cancellation of the future, I think, which captures not only that sense of termination, but the gradual nature of it. Those of us born at in a certain period, from the late 60s, 70s onwards, experienced time as marked by music in certain ways. That there was a strong connection between particular periods and music, and it was, one could periodize music, not only by the year but often by the month. And our sense of the futuristic now belongs to the past. It has not been updated since the 90s, really. The way to establish a lot of what I'm saying, I think, is a simple kind of time travel experiment, which is, if you imagine beaming back any music produced in the 21st century into 1994. I picked 1994 deliberately because it's 20 years ago, and it's hard for some of us to accept that 1994 is 20 years ago. But if beaming it back to 1994, what would happen if people heard that music in 1994? Would they go, my God, this is inexplicable, I've never heard anything like this. This isn't even music. I don't think anyone's going to do that. I don't think anyone would do that, actually. I think the reverse would be the case. If you beam back music from 2014 to 1994, people are going to say, are you serious? This is coming from 20 years in the future. This doesn't sound that different from what we've got today. And I think that's, thinking of that 20-year period illustrates the kind of slowing down, a flattening of time that I'm referring to. Because if you think back of 1994 to 1974, the vast sonic worlds that had been born and died in that period, the enormous kind of series of mutations that had occurred between 74 and 94, or again between 54 and 74, the speed, the rapidity, the efflorescence of different sounds, different sensations that emerged in that period. Since 1994, I don't think, I think that's flattened out.
Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with Mark there, but Mark is a really important cultural theorist.
Sure.
And we need to pay attention to his work. He has pointed out that we're all still suffering a major class war, but our notion of class has diminished, letting things sort of evoke us that shouldn't really evoke us. Yep. Now, Mark's introduction into this Lost Futures and Ghosts of the Past was through liminal spaces. Yep. What is a liminal space? Let's have a look at an image.
Yep.
A liminal space, as we were saying at the start, is a transitional space. And you actually are beginning to see it in all these things, like the electric state. There's this sort of vast emptiness.
Yes.
Now, that was a tunnel. This could be a mall, a shopping, abandoned shopping mall.
Well, yeah, they're just huge spaces.
And why do they seem to hark back historically to us? Move to that next image, and I'll tell you why. Here's a great moment.
Oh, right, yeah.
What's this evocative of?
That is The Shining.
Well, it feels like The Shining.
Feels like The Shining to me.
It's not The Shining. Let's go to the image.
But if you haven't seen The Shining, then you wouldn't have any,
And it's that notion of a liminal space, and it's also that notion of the Backrooms.
Yeah, right.
We're here so early in the piece.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess if we're in this world now, let's have a look at the conspiracy trope that The Shining always dreams about.
Absolutely.
And here's the astounding thing I also found whilst doing this research. You can actually purchase a copy of that.
I can actually knit that.
You can knit that? Well, you can go up onto Amazon and actually grab that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to our one last moving image. Not there.
I know. Okay,
what are you doing?
Well,
I told you. Let's go to our one last moving image.
Yeah.
I can't love you anymore, but you drive me loopy.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to Mark Fisher. Now, be careful with this, folks. We're not trying to bamboozle you, but there is interesting material in here that's pertinent, but it can get a little academic.
Okay.
As is seen in the case of Nietzsche's Last Man, knowing too much history can produce nihilism in a person, as access to too much information desensitizes people through apathy or cynicism, producing an ironic detachment to reality, as we are too aware of things and how they work to any longer be able to believe in anything. To Fisher, this is the current mindset of most individuals in late capitalistic society, having access to everything through cyberspace, desensitized by smartphone overstimulation. As Francis Fukuyama writes about, this is the end of history, noting man has reached an end to his social and cultural evolution, bringing an ending form of government, being that of liberal democracy. Human history, once defined by linear progression, ceases any longer to exist. Knowledge is dangerous in the sense that it can produce passive and depressive and uncaring people, acting as the antithesis to Nietzsche's own Übermensch. As Fisher references with the Caretaker's album, theoretically pure anterograde amnesia, since the listener, due to the use of constant reverb and echo by the artist, cannot tell if they have heard previous parts of the song before, they lose a sense of time while listening to the album itself, and are unable, as the disease for which the album is named, make new memories. To Fisher, we suffer from anterograde amnesia, unable to make new memories, with the death of linear history and socio-cultural evolution, relying on the past instead to navigate our environment at present, consumed by hauntologies. In The Home is Where the Haunt Is, The Shining's Hauntology, Fisher writes, "What is forgotten may be preserved through the mechanism of repression, using Freud's uncanny, that which is eerie or hauntingly familiar, but not consciously known, as it is repressed, allowing us to revive what was once old or forgotten or in the past, bringing it back into the present, marked by a sense of ambivalence, similar to Derrida's concept of hauntology itself. Also being linked with the Deleuzian virtual, as it is, like memory as Proust posed, something ideal but also very much real, something no longer or not yet actual, but is becoming realized or starting to become actualized. In The Shining, the ghosts of the hotel are completely out of time, with the song It's All Forgotten Now playing in the background, past merged with the present, where it is made evident that Jack has always been the caretaker of the establishment itself, seeing a photograph of him dated from the 1920s. The etymology of the word haunt means to frequent a place, represented sometimes as homely. Fisher claims the word haunt closely resembles the German word das Unheimlich, or the uncanny, referencing Freud. Fisher also claims the German word Heimlich, though generally translated as secret, can also mean homely. Like the words hauntology and ontology, Heimlich and Unheimlich are near homophones, sounding almost the same, where unheimlich, though generally translated as eerie, can also, according to Fisher, mean unhomely. As such, the word haunt can be ambivalently expressed as home and that which invades it. Hence, to Fisher, home is where the haunt is, where the traumatic real has been repressed via Freud's psychoanalytic theory, being ambivalently there and not there. Man, unable to make new memories with the loss of linear history, is trapped in a constant present, haunted by ambivalent and uncanny ghosts, similar to those in the Overlook Hotel, where we end up becoming the past caretaker at present, looking over what was once overlooked.
I tell you, I love those last lines, looking over what was once overlooked at the Overlook Hotel, and home is where the haunt is. It's quite extraordinary. Now, I hope that explained a little more to people about Mark Fisher and his place in the world of liminal spaces, hauntology, the ghosts of the past, our lost futures. But let me tell you about a popular fictional concept that, just like the electric state, is now building like a tumbleweed, like an event horizon. And, you know, here's the odd thing. I forgot to mention this.
Like a black hole, it's going to
If
swallow
you're
us.
there at that event horizon and you slip, you're not sucked, you're Venus flytrapped into that black hole, what is the term they use for what begins to happen to you as the force of the gravity are so condensed beyond what we could imagine. It is you're spaghettified, right?
What?
There's a link here.
Okay.
And the link is to the Backrooms, because the Backrooms started as a fictional concept originating from a creepypasta posted in 2019. So not so long ago at all.
So long ago.
Part of a 4chan thread. One of the best known examples of the liminal aesthetic of liminal spaces. First described as a maze of empty office rooms that can only be extended by non-clipping out of reality. Now, there is a film done by the incredible Ken Parsons, or Kane Pixel. He was 16 when when he actually made the feature, the fan feature Backrooms.
Right.
And he has now reached an incredible level of sophistication, so much so, Aspasia.
Yes, Jamie.
That they've optioned a feature film.
I have,
and he is going to be entitled to direct it.
Wow.
And as you can see, there's something familiar about these spaces, but these spaces always haunt us. And why is that? Because in a sense, what they give us is a feeling of the end. Armageddon, which I think has sunk into human consciousness now.
Yeah.
I mean, after what we went through in the last 3 years, the depression that Mark was talking about that actually took him on. I was looking last night at the Australian government stats on suicide rates, which are actually on the rise, and especially in males, young males in culture. And it's that sense of no future. It's sort of got that same feeling that Britain had in the 70s, that rose into Malcolm McLaren exploiting those young men and becoming the Sex Pistols and articulating those words. This whole creepypasta thing has grown beyond what you could ever imagine. It has now come up with literally tens to hundreds of different levels to the Backrooms. It has become fan-made video games. It's become collaborative action wikis, YouTube videos, YouTube series. It's just taken off in a life of its own.
Yeah.
And I think what happened with Mr. Pixel is that he decided that he was going to initiate a storyline where a corporation, and you need to actually go to his YouTube site and look at this, started to investigate the Backrooms. They clipped into the Backrooms, and here they are now. And they're very funny. They're very caustic. They're very absurdist. But they're in the Backrooms because, as we stated in our title, Aspasia, what exists in the Backrooms is the Eldritch. And which is that ominous feeling, I think, is hanging over all of us. Because in a sense, we're all now in the Backrooms of our culture. Knowing if we pedal forward, we're going towards trouble. Maybe we can look back and get some solace from the images that comforted us in our childhood. But there's still something dark and despotic in that imagery. And there it is, hiding around the corner of every backroom. So before we end tonight, let's go to a little bit of imagery from the found footage. I think the Blair Witch Project has a lot to answer for, because these found footage ideas of like the documentary coming to life are quite extraordinary. Let's look at motion detected in, well, let's actually go to this one in the Backrooms. It's rather short and it's rather cute.
Attention all Class D personnel. Please enter the containment chamber. Please approach SCP-173 for testing. There seems to be a problem with the door control system. The door isn't responding to any of our attempts to close it, so please maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173.
So you've got to be careful, Congress. US government,
I think,
all of us
well, I don't know.
playing around with the Eldritch.
I think giving kids computers is not a good thing.
Well, we actually saw signs of that over these school holidays, that
Absolutely.
they're becoming irritable.
Yeah. When they're
really
on there too long,
frustrated
and
because they're on it too long and they need a break from it.
and they can't give themselves a break from it because it's an addictive thing. It's like a drug.
If
These
we
computers
can
are
we
like a
go
drug.
to that still,
Which
go
one?
to the stills back up.
Yeah.
This is the whole basis behind, right up the top, please. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This is the basis behind the electric state. What you were saying there,
Yeah.
and existence and Videodrome is
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
people are now, it
Isolated.
might as well be the phone. It's a great metaphor. It's a great allegory
Yeah.
for it. And, you know, they have this robotoid world and breaking through the wilderness and some of these beautiful graphic images by Simon. There are these cable robots that are just perpetually
tethered.
Well, actually relinking people into the neurocast.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's very similar to what Elon Musk is telling us about the chip that's going to go into human brains and link us into the interweb.
Why do we?
And, you know, we had Russell Brady here recently from Star Wars Burlesque.
Yeah.
Who's doing astounding work. But he's talking to me about the future of cinema, and he's just made a brilliant independent feature film.
Yeah.
But he's going, we're all going to have to watch it on what seem to be VR helmets, like a bike helmet.
See,
and I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable half the time with headphones on.
I'll tell you what the problem with this thing is, and you can see it right there in that image. You are isolated. You are totally isolated. You're on your own.
This is beyond the
and
matrix now.
This isolation is not good for humanity. Humans are social animals. And this is what computers do. And I can see it in the kids all the time. They are totally engrossed in and focused on that computer and what it's showing them. Yet in their minds are more powerful, more imaginative than that computer, because that computer has a limitation. It's limited to whatever it's been programmed to. Once that program, has been reached, they've seen everything, then that's it. Their minds never stop working. And what they need to be doing is going outside and experiencing, socializing, and
I'm sure this is actually causing.
This picture shows me the isolation and the loneliness, and that's where your mind breaks down. And that's why we have so much mental health issues now in Western society, because we are getting further and further away from community, from socializing with people. It is isolating us by, ring for food, download your entertainment, don't go outside, ring for your shopping to be delivered to your home, work from home. It's just isolate. And once, the worst thing you can do to a person, this is what I always say to people, once you've imprisoned someone, and that's the worst thing that you can do, put people in a prison and restrict their freedom, restrict their, what they go and the feeling of freedom. And then once they're in there and they misbehave, what do you do to them then? You isolate them totally in a cell. Total solitary confinement. That is the worst thing that you can do. And this is what these computers are doing to our children, and we're not taking heed of it. And we're going down a really bad path. But because these corporations are selling us this notion that computers are going to free us and we're going to be able to do so much more with them, no, you're not. Your imagination is your limit, not having a computer. Not having a computer is going to be the destruction of us. I'm telling you right now.
Thank you for that. And I think you made some profound statements in our closing arguments. But, the retina is the mirror of culture, and we are seeing reflected in our incredible creative artists, in our popular culture that is running to it from a fan-based creative perspective that's astounding.
Yeah, I
but
understand
at the same time, it is telling us that we're entering this new depressive age.
Yeah, we are.
Where we all feel that something's going to turn against it. A major threat is there. We mightn't be able to conceive that threat or articulate it, but it's a depression that's running behind us all.
It's like we're waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
All the time.
Now, David Russell did a great lecture for us.
He did.
About 3 years ago on the fact that he always said to me, what are you talking about? The whole notion of some other consciousness, maybe the alien threat, the alien invasion. He said it's already here.
Yeah.
It's your computers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he actually pointed out through the incredible literary work of people like Philip K. Dick, just how much of that had been spoken about in terms of that sense of lost futures, back there in the 70s.
Yeah.
So the Backrooms is set in the 90s. Stranger Things is set in the 80s.
Yeah.
We're harking back to a time and searching for something we've lost that's already in front of us, which is primarily each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just need to shut the screens down, turn the phones off, go out into the wilderness and live in cohabitation with the parallel hominid.
Your phone's off. All you need to do is walk out your door and you leave your phone at home where it belongs.
Now, talking about the absolute brilliance of Untold Radio and the absolute brilliance of modern technology, last week you actually deleted
in a
our
frenzy.
entire
I
ending.
did.
What we're going to do is we're going to go to something that's actually making my hair stand on end, but I'm willing to play it, and which is Doug and Alex have generated.
Again, here we go.
Through AI.
There we go.
A journey into the Untold music video.
So you're going to get that as our outro this week.
You know what I think we should do? We should go and get in touch with that Norse death metal band, Impale Nazarene.
Oh, yeah.
And we should do an analog version of this.
Yeah.
That has no AI, no computers whatsoever, using leads and old valve equipment. And we might just come up with a counterpoint. But, hey, that's the way it is. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for listening. If you weren't watching, you need to go up. We were quite visual. I'm sorry we might seem a little convoluted, oblique, and
well, this is just so we're trying to get a lot into a very short amount of time.
But also think too, we have to exercise caution with coming to the world of the unusual and know that the greatest source for all that information and clarity exists inside our DNA.
Absolutely.
And we're reflecting all that back, whether we accept it consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
And we need now to seek out alternatives. Let's marry the two. You can have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Everything, like my mother used to say, moderation.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will be able to keep our head above water. If not, it's been great knowing you. You've been on episode 66 of Down South Anomalies, Hauntology, Eldritch in the Backrooms. And one of the things that Aspasia and I promise you is that we will always bring you the lateral thinking edge of the anomalous world. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.
Good luck with the film clip.
Turn up the dial, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wide variety. Share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, ghosts in the hallway whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories are talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network.